The day the silence Keith's sky above the studio was heavy that afternoon, as if it knew something no one else did. Clouds moved slow and dark, casting long shadows on the lot where everyone pretended nothing was wrong. Inside, the air buzzed, with lights, voices, camera clicks, and quiet tension. It was the third week of filming, and everything looked perfect from the outside. The cameras rolled. The director barked instructions. The crew moved quickly like clockwork. But behind the main set, in a small corner, barely lit by the afternoon sun, Anna sat alone. She didn't say a word. She hadn't all day, not really. Everyone thought she was just focused, preparing for her scene. But Keanu noticed. He always noticed. Her eyes weren't just quiet. They were swollen. She wore sunglasses even in the dim hallway, claiming it was part of her costume, but Keanu had seen her enough to know the difference between lighting and hiding. She was hiding. Anna's hand gripped the edge of the script so tight that the pages curled under her fingers. She blinked fast, like she was fighting off something. Not a line, not a scene, something deeper. Something that had followed her from home. Keanu didn't interrupt. He never did when someone needed space. He stood nearby, leaning against a support beam. He had no lines today, no reason to stay on set. But he stayed, just stood there, quiet, present. And then it happened. Someone on set shouted. Too loud, too sharp, and the sound cracked the air like a whip. Anna flinched hard. Her whole body jerked like she had been hit. It was small, but Keanu saw it. Her shoulders curled in. Her breathing changed. She quickly turned away and wiped her cheek. No one else noticed, except Keanu. Hours passed. Scenes were filmed. People laughed. Makeup artists powdered faces. Producers walked by holding phones and coffee. But behind the scenes, Anna never came. Back out from her quiet corner, the director didn't push her. He assumed she was resting. She had a tough role after all. But Keanu didn't assume. He waited until no one was watching, then walked over. He didn't say anything at first, just sat down on the ground beside her. The cement floor was cold, rough. His knees ached a little, but he didn't care. Anna didn't look at him. She just kept her eyes on the same spot in front of her after. A minute of silence, she finally whispered, "You don't have to sit here." He answered gently, "I know." They didn't speak for a long time after that. Sometimes kindness is just not leaving. Anna's shoulders slowly loosened. Her breathing slowed. Finally, she let the tears fall. They slid down her face without sound. She didn't sob, didn't shake, just let them fall. Like they had waited all day for this moment. Keanu didn't look away. He didn't try to fix it. He just stayed. "People think I'm strong," she said softly. "But today, I didn't even want to come here." "You still came," he replied. She looked at him for the first time. Her eyes were red, tired, but there was a flicker of something else in them. No, something grateful. "You ever feel like the whole world is clapping for you, but no one really sees you?" she asked. Keanu nodded. Yes, more than once. She let out a small, shaky breath. "I didn't expect today to be this hard. What happened?" he asked, still calm, still soft. She hesitated, then said, "My father's birthday is today. It's the first one since he passed." Keanu lowered his head slightly, his voice gentle. "I'm sorry. We weren't close for a while." But near the end, he called, "We talked, and now he's just gone." A silence wrapped around them like a blanket. Heavy but warm. "I felt like if I kept working, I wouldn't feel it," she said. "But it found me anyway." "Grief is patient," he said. "It waits until you're alone." Anna looked away again, eyes wet. "I don't want anyone to think I'm weak." "Crying doesn't make you weak," Keanu said. "It makes you honest." Anna wiped her cheek and gave a small laugh. It was short, a bit broken, but real. "I forgot you're the wise one on set," Keanu smiled. "I just listen more than I talk." Pause. Then she asked, "Why'd you sit with me?" He looked at her, eyes steady and kind. "Because you were alone. And you shouldn't have been." Someone called Keanu's name from across the lot. They needed him for a costume fitting. He looked toward the voice, then back at Anna. "Double quotes go. she said. I'm okay now. But he didn't move. Instead, he took a small folded paper from his jacket and placed it beside her. I carry this when I'm not okay, he said. Anna opened it. It was a note, handwritten, a little faded from time. It said, "This pain will pass, but you must feel it first. Let it move through you, not around you. You're not alone." She looked up. Who wrote this? A stranger, he said. Someone who saw me cry once, when I thought no one could see. Anna held the paper close. Thank you. He stood up slowly. Hey. His knees cracked. He smiled again. Take your time. He said, "You're doing better than you think." And then he walked away, slowly, leaving her with the silence, the note, and the first moment of peace she had felt all day. On that day, Anna cried silently behind the set. But someone noticed, and someone stayed, and that made all the difference. The storm behind her, Smileyth, next morning, Anna arrived earlier than usual. She stepped out of her car just as the sun touched the edge of the horizon, painting soft golden light over the lot. The studio was still half asleep. Trucks parked quietly. Doors clicked open as crew members sipped coffee and yawned into the early silence. Anna's footsteps were lighter today, but not because the weight was gone. It was still there, inside her chest like a small stone, but it wasn't crushing her anymore, and maybe that was because someone had seen it. Someone hadn't looked away. She passed by a few familiar faces who gave her quick smiles. She nodded back, polite and quiet. No one asked how she felt, and that was fine. Sometimes you don't want to be asked. Sometimes you just want someone to sit near you and say nothing, and yesterday, Keanu had done just that. She reached her dressing room and found a note taped to the door. Small, folded, handwritten. It said, "If it gets heavy again, come find the quiet. I'll be there," no name. But she knew who it was from. Keanu was already on set when she entered. He stood in the far corner, going over the scene for the day. He wore his costume, but hadn't stepped into character yet. It was just Keanu. Grounded, steady like always, their eyes met across the room. She gave him the smallest smile, not one for the cameras. One that said, "Thank you." He nodded back. Just once. Then the work began. The scene that morning was tough, emotionally demanding, full of tension. Anna had to cry in front of the camera, but this time for the story. She had done crying scenes before, hundreds, but this one was different. This one felt too close. The script asked her to lose someone she loved, and now her mind kept drifting. To her mother, lying in a hospital bed far away, the director called for action. Anna tried to focus. The lights were hot. The room was crowded. Cameras zoomed in on her face. The actor opposite her said his line, sharp and cold. She took a deep breath, ready for her part. Her heart pounded. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Not the line. Not the tears. Nothing cut, the director said. "Let's reset." Anna shook her head gently. "Sorry, I can do it." But on the second take, it happened again. In the third, someone whispered near the camera. Someone else checked the clock. Pressure built quickly in the room. The director walked over. "Anna, are you all right?" She nodded too quickly. "Yes, I just need one more try." He gave a forced smile. "Okay, but let's not fall behind." As he walked away, Anna stood frozen. And then, from the edge of the room, Keanu walked toward her. Not rushed, not loud, just calm, like always. He didn't say anything, didn't make a scene. He stood beside her and leaned in slightly, close enough so only she could hear. "Breathe," he said. "Don't act, just feel." She looked at him, and for a moment the set disappeared. The lights, cameras, the people watching, all gone. Just one breath, one quiet space. She nodded. They rolled the scene again. This time the tears came, slow, raw, and honest. Her voice cracked. Her hands trembled. She didn't follow the script exactly, but it didn't matter. It was real when the director called. Cut. The room was silent. Then someone whispered, "Wow." Everyone clapped. During lunch break, Anna sat alone in the courtyard behind the studio, holding a cup of tea. The air smelled like flowers from the garden nearby. Her body was still tense, but her heart felt different. Something had shifted. Keanu sat across from her a few minutes later. "You were amazing," he said. "I almost broke," she replied. "You didn't," he said. "You transformed." She looked at him closely. "Why do you always know the right thing to say?" "'Cause I don't speak until I've listened," he said with a small smile. She laughed gently. "You're like a walking fortune cookie." He laughed too. "I've been called worse." A moment passed, and then her face grew serious again. "They don't know what's happening with my mom," she said. "I didn't want to tell anyone. I thought it would make me look weak." "Grief is not weakness," Keanu said. "It's proof of love." Anna blinked fast. "I feel like if I cry one more time, I'll fall apart." He nodded, "Then fall apart. And when you're done, get up again." "What if I can't? Then I'll help you." Anna looked down, her hands gripping the teacup tighter. "Do you ever feel like people expect you to be strong all the time?" "Yes," he said. "And sometimes that makes it even harder to admit when you're not." Anna looked at him again. "What do you do when it gets too much?" "I find silence," he said. "Then I remind myself that I've made it through worse." Her eyes filled again, but this time it was healing, not breaking. Later that day, after filming wrapped, Anna walked slowly toward her car. Her phone buzzed in her bag. She paused, opened it, and saw a new message from her sister. She woke up. "She asked about you, said your voice would calm her. Maybe call when you can." Anna stood there for a long moment. The world around her blurred. She called, she waited, and then she heard her mother's voice, weak but alive. "Me, Nina," her mother said softly. "I'm still here." Tears poured silently down Anna's face, but this time they weren't from pain. "I'm still here too," she whispered back. When the call ended, she turned and saw Keanu standing by his car, just watching quietly. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. She walked over and hugged him, not for comfort, but for gratitude, because sometimes the person who saves you never says a single heroic word. They just stay. What we carry when no one knows next week brought rain. It wasn't dramatic, not the kind of storm that shakes windows or turns the sky black. It was soft and slow, like the earth itself was sad. The raindrops tapped lightly on the studio's rooftop as people rushed inside, umbrellas dripping, coats clinging to their arms. Anna didn't rush. She stood just outside the entrance for a long moment, letting the rain touch her hair, her face, her hands. She looked up into the gray sky and closed her eyes. The night before, her mother had fallen asleep mid-conversation, not from tiredness, but from the medication. Her sister had sent a photo. Their mom's hand was resting on her chest, and her lips had the smallest smile. Anna had stared at the photo for hours. Now, she stood at the door to the studio, trying to decide how to walk inside. To pretend again. How to be what everyone needed her to be. But she wasn't alone this time. She heard quiet footsteps behind. Her Keanu, he didn't speak, didn't ask anything. He simply lifted his umbrella and shared it with her. They stood together like that for a moment to actors, to human beings, not needing to say a single word. And then they walked inside. The mood was different. The director was tense. They were behind schedule. One scene had to be rewritten due to location problems. Another actor had called in sick. Pressure pressed down on everyone. Anna tried to stay focused. She had lines to rehearse, movements to remember. She sat in her makeup chair letting someone dab foundation on her cheeks. Her phone buzzed again. A message from her sister. "She's resting. No pain right now. They'll keep you updated." Anna closed her eyes. A single tear slipped from her left eye. The makeup artist quickly dabbed it away, saying nothing, and in the mirror behind her, Keanu passed by. He didn't stop, didn't wave, but their eyes met, and in that 1 second, she felt steady again. The scene they were filming that day was intense. Anna's character had to argue with Keanu's, push him away, and break down in front of him. The words were harsh, emotions were heavy. Even though it was fiction, something about it felt too real. As the cameras rolled, Anna gave everything she had. She screamed the lines. Her chest heaved. Her eyes burned. And when the moment came, she collapsed into Keanu's arms, exactly as the script demanded. But something happened. She didn't pull away after cut was called. She stayed there, her head against his chest, breathing hard. Her shoulders trembling, not from the scene, but from real feelings she hadn't expected. Keanu didn't move. The crew grew quiet. Someone whispered to the director, but he motioned for everyone to stay still. Anna finally pulled away, blinking fast. "Sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean," but Keanu gently interrupted. "Don't apologize. It wasn't acting." And she nodded, too tired to pretend otherwise. During a short break, they sat side by side on a wooden bench near the back of the soundstage. The rain outside had stopped, but the air was still damp and cool. Anna took a deep breath. "It's making me feel things I've been trying to avoid." Keanu nodded. "Sometimes the story finds the wound we hide." She looked down. "I feel like I'm falling apart in front of everyone." "You're not falling apart," he said. "You're letting go of what's too heavy." Anna blinked, then quietly asked, "Do you believe people are brought together?" "For a reason." Keanu thought for a second. "I believe kindness is never random. Maybe that's the reason enough." She looked at him. "You've been so kind to me." "You don't need to earn kindness," he said. "You deserve it just by being you." She wiped a small tear. "I didn't know how much I needed to hear that." He gave her a warm smile. "We all forget sometimes." At evening, as they wrapped the day's shoot, the sky outside turned orange and soft. Golden light slipped through the glass windows, casting a quiet glow across the floor. Anna stood alone near the door. Her phone buzzed again. She hesitated before checking it. This time it was a video. Her mother in bed, whispering something to the nurse. The nurse turned the phone toward her, and her mother smiled, tired but alive. "Tell Anna I love her. Tell her I'm proud." Anna pressed the phone to her chest. Behind her, Keanu approached slowly. "You okay?" She turned, her voice shaky. "She's still holding on." Keanu nodded. "So are you." Anna reached into her coat pocket and took out the piece of cloth he had given her days ago. She handed it back. "I think you should keep this," she said. "I have something else now." She held up the phone. "But thank you. That cloth. It helped me breathe." He took it gently and tucked it back in his pocket. They stood in the golden light for a while, just watching the world turn quiet again. That night, Anna didn't cry alone. Mother, and said everything she had been holding inside. All the love, all the pain, all the words she had waited too long to say. And when she hung up, she didn't feel broken. She felt brave, because she had spoken from her heart, and someone had taught her how to feel. Again, not with big speeches or loud promises, just by noticing and staying. The words they never said aloud. The next morning arrived with a strange stillness in the air. Clouds hung low over the city, soft and heavy, like a blanket that hadn't yet decided whether to rain or not. The streets near the studio were unusually quiet. Even the birds seemed to keep their songs to themselves. Anna arrived early again, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Something had changed inside her. Something quiet but strong. Her steps were still gentle, still careful. But her heart no longer felt like it was sinking with every beat. She wasn't healed, but she wasn't breaking anymore either as she stepped inside. She noticed something unusual. Keanu wasn't there. His usual spot near the coffee table was empty. No notebook, no quiet smile, no soft nod as she walked by. Anna paused for a moment, feeling a strange ache rise in her chest. It surprised her. She hadn't realized just how much his quiet presence had meant. The assistant director walked by and said casually, "Keanu's running late. Car trouble, I think." Anna nodded, pretending it didn't matter. But it did. The scene that day was simple. No shouting, no crying. Just a quiet conversation between their characters. An important turning point in the story, where the real challenge wasn't in what was said, but what was not said. Where silence carried more meaning than words, Anna sat on set, waiting. She looked over her lines, but her mind kept wandering. She thought about her mother, again how her voice had faded a little more during their last call. How her sister had said, "I think it's soon." She hadn't told anyone. She didn't want to interrupt the work, but the truth pressed on her like a shadow she couldn't step out of. When Keanu finally arrived, the air shifted. He walked in calmly, with a small apology to the crew, and quietly took his place. His hair was still damp from the rain outside. He gave Anna a short smile. She nodded back, trying not to let the relief show too much in her face. But he saw it. He always saw it. They rehearsed once, then rolled the cameras in the scene. Anna's character asked a question simple but layered. "Why didn't you leave?" Keanu's character replied, "Because you needed someone to stay." The words were scripted, written weeks ago, memorized. But as they spoke them, something in the room changed. Anna's voice wavered. Not in the way the scene required, but in a deeper, real way. Keanu looked at her, not as his character, but as himself. In her eyes, he saw the truth she was hiding, and when the director called cut, no one moved, not even the crew. Anna stood still. Her eyes glistened, but she didn't look away. She whispered, "I might lose her tonight." Keanu didn't respond with shock. He didn't ask questions. He simply stepped forward and held her hand. "Then you shouldn't be here," he said. Softly, "I don't know where else to go," she replied. "You should go to her. What if she doesn't wake up again? Then let your voice be the last thing she hears." Anna's lip trembled, but the movie can. "Wait," Keanu said. "Your heart can't." An hour later, Anna sat in the producer's office, her flight already booked. The studio didn't argue. They didn't push back. Keanu had already spoken to the team. He said one thing only: "Let her go home. We'll manage." And they listened. Because when Keanu spoke with that kind of quiet strength, people heard him. Walked with her to her car. The sky had darkened again. Wind pushed against the trees gently. A storm was coming. As she opened the door, she looked at him. "Thank you," she said. He handed her a folded piece of paper. "Read this when you're on the plane," he said. "What is it?" "Just something I wrote after my own loss." Held the note tightly. "What if she doesn't wake up?" "Then tell her everything now," he replied. "Don't hold anything back." Anna got in and closed the door. Keanu stepped back as the car pulled away. He didn't wave, but he stayed until she was gone. On the flight, Anna opened the note. It read, "You will want to forget this pain, but don't, because pain is the proof that love was real. Say what you need to say. And when the silence comes, let it be full of memories, not regrets." She pressed the paper to her lips, tears falling quietly hours later. She arrived at the hospital. Her sister met her at the door, her face pale and tired. "She's been waiting." "For you?" she said. Anna walked in. Her mother opened her eyes and smiled. Anna sat beside her, took her hand and whispered everything. Every word she never got to say before. Every fear. Every apology. Every "I love you." And when her mother's eyes finally closed that night, Anna was still holding her hand. The silence that followed was deep, but it wasn't empty. A day later, Anna messaged Keanu. "She's gone, but she heard me. I'll never forget what you did." He replied simply, "She's still with you, now more than ever." Anna stared at the message, tears in her eyes, a soft smile on her face. She wasn't alone, because someone had noticed, and someone had stayed, even when it wasn't easy. Even when the camera stopped, when grief walked back on set 4 days later, Anna returned. The sky was clear, not a single cloud in sight. The sun shone with that sharp kind of brightness that didn't match the heaviness she carried inside. She stepped onto the studio lot, wearing sunglasses again, but this time it wasn't to hide tears. It was to protect something more delicate, her still healing heart. No one rushed her. No one asked when she'd be back. The production had quietly paused, then moved around. Her absence, respecting her space, not because they had to, but because Keanu had made sure of it. When Anna entered the studio, It was quiet, almost still. A few lights flickered on overhead. The scent of fresh coffee floated in the air. A wardrobe assistant smiled gently and nodded in her direction. No one said, "Welcome back." No one asked, "How are you?" And somehow that was the kindest thing they could have done. But as she reached her dressing room door, she saw another small note, taped gently to the wood. "You are not broken. You are becoming." She closed her eyes and exhaled. He was still noticing the schedule had changed. Instead of returning to an emotional scene, they'd arranged something lighter, a quiet exchange between characters, something about reconciliation and finding peace. But Anna knew, even as she read the new script, that today wasn't about lines. It was about finding herself again. She walked onto the soundstage and saw him. Keanu stood by the props table, dressed for the scene, already speaking quietly with the director. His presence was as steady as ever, like the earth under your feet after a storm. He turned, saw her, and gave her a nod. No big smile, no wave, just respect. She walked toward him slowly. Her steps were calm, but each one carried the memory of the last few days, the tears, the last words to her mother, the silence that came after. "I didn't know if I was ready," she said when she reached him. "You came," he said gently. "That's enough." They didn't hug. They didn't cry. They just stood together in the quiet. Anna whispered. "She passed peacefully." "Because she heard your voice," Keanu replied. "That matters more than anything." Anna looked down. "I thought I'd feel lost without her. But instead, I feel her everywhere." "Grief has a way of becoming part of us," he said. "It doesn't leave. It just finds a quiet place inside." The cameras rolled. Their scene was short. Keanu's single quotes his character offered a letter. No dialogue. No dialogue. Only music. Only eyes. Only meaning, and yet behind those small actions, something real pulsed through. Anna's hands trembled slightly as she reached for the prop letter. She didn't fight it. She let it happen. She let the trembling speak. Keanu held her gaze. Not his character. Him no words were needed. When the director called cut, the entire set was silent. No one clapped. They didn't need to. What had happened in that scene wasn't just acting. It was healing after the shoot. Anna stepped outside. Alone, she sat near the same bench where she and Keanu had spoken weeks ago. The flowers in the small studio garden had started blooming soft reds, gentle purples, bright yellow petals that reached toward the light. Her phone buzzed. This time, it was a message from a fan. "Your last scene." "I don't know why, but it made me cry. Thank you for being so real." Akana held the phone to her chest. A few minutes later, Keanu walked out holding 2 cups of tea. He sat beside her and handed one over. They sat quietly for a while, listening to the wind brush through the leaves. "I used to think grief would make me weaker," Anna said, staring into the distance. "But now, I feel more open." "That's what it does," Keanu said. "It breaks us open so more light can come in." She smiled slightly. "You say things like that, and then act like it's normal." He laughed softly. "It is normal. Pain teaches us things joy never can." Anna took a sip of her tea. The warmth sank into her hands, her throat, her chest. "Thank you," she said, "not just for the tea, not just for the moment." He looked at her. "You don't have to thank me." "I didn't save you. You stayed," she said. "It saved me." Later that day, a new schedule was posted. Anna saw her name listed beside Keanu's for several upcoming scenes. Some dramatic, some quiet. But one stood out. A final scene. A goodbye. Her heart skipped. She looked over at Keanu, who was now walking away with a script in hand. She wondered if he felt it too, that this story they were acting wasn't just fiction anymore. It had become a reflection of everything real that had passed between them: loss, resilience, kindness, and the quiet kind of love that lives in silence. Not romantic, not loud, just real. That night, Anna stood by her window at home, watching the stars. She held her mother's photo in one hand and Keanu's note in the other. Her heart ached. But it also beat with something new, something alive. For the first time in days, she whispered into the dark, "I'm okay now. Not perfect, not strong all the time, but okay." Outside, the stars blinked quietly. Inside, she smiled. Because sometimes the ones who see our pain without asking are the ones who help us find our way back. The last scene was never in the script. Final day of filming arrived with a quiet chill in the air. There were no storms, no rain, no sunburst. Sky just calm gray clouds that wrapped gently around the studio buildings. A kind of peaceful silence covered everything. Even the usual busy voices of the crew were softer that morning, as if the whole place knew something meaningful was about to end. Anna stepped onto the lot before sunrise. She paused and looked around slowly. Everything felt familiar now. The scent of fresh coffee, the warmth of the lights being tested, the quiet clatter of equipment. It used to overwhelm her. Now it felt like home. This place had seen her fall apart, but it had also seen her get back up, and a big reason for that was already waiting for her by the set. Keanu, notebook in hand, standing quietly like always. She walked up beside him. "You're early," said with a small smile. "You always are," she replied. They didn't need to say more. Their story didn't live in words anymore. It lived in quiet looks, gentle nods, and small shared silences. The scene scheduled that day was their final one. In the movie, their characters had gone through heartbreak, loss, and healing, mirroring real life more than anyone had planned. The last moment was simple. Their characters would meet on a bench, speak only a few lines, and walk away in opposite directions. A goodbye. But not a sad one. A gentle ending. The cameras rolled. Anna sat on the bench first. Keanu walked in and sat beside her. There was a pause, just long enough for the silence to feel full. Then he said the line, "You changed me." Anna looked at him, her voice steady but warm. "You helped me find who I was." He reached over and gently took her hand. "So this isn't goodbye," she added. "Just a different kind of hello." Keanu smiled softly. "I'll remember this version of you." The script said they should now say goodbye, walk in opposite directions. But they didn't. Keanu stayed seated. Anna stayed too, and the director, sensing something real happening, didn't call. Cut. The cameras kept rolling. Anna turned slightly, her real voice breaking through the scene. "Thank you," she whispered, not to his character. To him, Keanu, single quotes, eyes met hers. "I was just here." She shook her head slowly. "You were more than that." And then finally, they stood, not quickly, not rehearsed, just honestly. They walked in different directions as the script asked, but not with sadness, with peace. And when the director finally said cut, the crew didn't clap right away. They just sat in the moment, letting the weight of it settle. Everyone had felt it. Something real had happened. Later that day, the quiet dressing room she had once cried in, Anna packed up her things. A few clothes, her worn-out script, and tucked carefully between 2 pages. Keanu's old cloth handkerchief, the one he had given her when she didn't have the strength to speak. She had asked once if she could return it, but he had said, "Some things aren't meant to go back. They're meant to go forward." A knock at her door broke her thoughts. She opened it. Keanu stood there, not in costume, just in his own quiet, everyday self. "Thought you might want one last walk?" said. She nodded. They walked the long hallway, past empty sound stages and fading set pieces. Not saying much, not needing to. "I'm not the same person who started this film," Anna said finally. "None of us are," Keanu answered. "Do you ever think certain people are placed in your life at the exact moment you need them?" She asked. Keanu didn't answer right away then. He said, "I think some souls recognize each other, even if they've never met before." Anna smiled at that. "I think my mother would have liked you." Keanu looked at her gently. "I think she already does." They reached the door that led out to the lot. Anna stopped and turned to him. "Thank you for seeing me." when no one else did. "You weren't invisible," he said. "You were just carrying too much. You helped me put it down." He nodded once, and then for the first time since this entire journey began, they hugged. No rush, no words. Just a quiet moment between two people who had walked through something together and come out the other side changed. Not because they planned it, but because kindness always finds a way. Months passed, the film premiered. Audiences around the world watched the story unfold two broken characters, finding healing in the most unexpected way. Critics praised their performances. But what no one knew was that it wasn't just acting. It was truth. Real emotions, real silence, real staying. And somewhere, in a quiet home, Anna kept a framed photo of her mother by the window. With Keanu's final note beside it, it read, "The heart never forgets who stayed when the world walked by." Every time she saw it, she smiled, because in the moment she thought no one saw her. He did, and he never left.